under fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
What's going on, guys? Good evening and welcome to the show. It is Stateside Footy, and tonight it is the pre-match build-up as we kick off to World Cup 2026 with a series of friendlies against Senegal and Germany, and of course tomorrow we will obviously get Senegal, and it is a very intriguing matchup. Just because of the talent, the physicality, the pace in which Senegal plays. And of course, when you kind of look at both of these teams pretty much do the exact same thing, except Senegal does have a different wrinkle that they can show. So this, because of that, this is actually going to be a very good test. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But you know what else would be fantastic? If you guys showed the channel some love by hitting that like and subscribe button and also hitting that notification bell, because we are so goddamn close to 500. And of course, I would like to see that number get there by the start of World Cup 2026. So yeah, man, hook the channel up. Let's see. Greg 1987 says, let's call him Captain Ream. Well-deserved. I guess. It is well-deserved. I mean, based off of longevity, sure. Being 38, 39, yeah, I guess. I would probably think that there are a couple different options for captain, but that being said, you can understand why Mauricio Pochettino absolutely likes Tim Ream, why he would name him captain. But that being said, now that he is captain, that almost essentially assures that Tim Ream is probably going to see a lot of playing time this summer. And for anybody that has watched Tim Ream this season with Charlotte FC, it is apparent that he has regressed quite a bit. So from that standpoint, I don't necessarily know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a thing. So I guess, yes, congratulations to Tim Ream being named captain for the U.S. men's national team. All right, so first and foremost, let's go ahead and get into it, because I do want to talk a little bit about Senegal and what Senegal looks like, what we can expect from the Senegalese, because they currently rank number 14th by FIFA, and of course have won 4 of their last 5. They beat Mali 1-0, and then of course they beat Egypt 1-0, and this was during the Africa Cup of Nations in January. They actually forfeited their match to Morocco before rebounding in March by beating Peru, and then of course they beat the Gambia. And so as of right now, you would probably assume that Senegal is doing pretty well. Conversely, they are currently ranked number 17 in the ELO rankings. So between 14 and 17, this is exactly the type of team where they, their ranking reflects the talent in which they play with. And let me pull up their projected starting lineup. This is what I'm expecting to see from Senegal. Now, one of the things that they boast is a front attacking three that is absolutely brilliant. And of course, they have one of the most underrated killers in the Premier League that can play both the left and the right side. And of course, that's Ilman Ndiaye, the absolute wizard that plays for Everton. And of course, Sadio Mane also is a part of this attacking three. And both of these guys, regardless of how you man mark them, both of these guys have the ability, not just with the pace and the physicality, they can create their own space, they can play balls in. But that being said, especially, depending on what the objective is with their outside backs, they could be inside forwards, and of course their goal threats. And of course, up top is going to be Nicholas Jackson as well too, who I believe this season is on loan with Bayern Munich as well too. And say what you will about Nicholas Jackson, the dude has the ability to score goals and punches, and especially if he gets on a heater, this is one of those type of situations where the absolute strengths of what Senegal is going to be able to show this team does not play into our strengths as well too. Our back line is probably one of the shakiest as well too, and so from that situation, we're also, you're also going to have to expect the U.S. to be able to stand up to this, because one of the things that, again, when you talk about what Senegal is going to be able to throw, one of the things that I don't think a lot of people will give this team credit for is that midfield as well too. And when you look at what they have, when it comes to Idris Gana Gueye, who plays for Everton, you have Habib Diarra, who plays for Sunderland, and you have Pape Gueye, who plays for, or Pape Gueye, who plays for Villarreal. These three dudes are very, very, very good technical players with the ball at their feet. One-touch passing, they're able to weave through traffic, but also on the defensive side of the ball, regardless of whether they're playing a mid-block or whether they're just pressing the ball, they actually have the ability to give fits to their opposing teams. And of course, that was manifested during World Cup qualifying with CAF. And the fact that they were able to finish at the top of their qualifying group as well too, just kind of shows you just how organized and well structured this team is, and just how well coached this team is. And by the way, when you're looking at World Cup qualifying, finishing on 24 at the top of the group with a goal differential plus 19, and not losing a single match in their group, going 7-3 through 10. It's just unbelievable, just kind of, the kind of run that they were able to have, not just within the Africa Cup of Nations, but also with World Cup qualifying as well too. And by the way, defensively, one of the underrated center back pairings with Koulibaly, who by the way is probably going to be wearing the captain's armband, and Niakate as well too, who is a young center back that plays for Lyon in France. Unbelievable talent. And when it comes to African nations, I know a lot of the pub goes to Morocco or potentially Egypt, and obviously well deserved as well too. But one of the teams that really doesn't get talked a lot is the Senegal team, and this is one of the more complete teams that Africa is going to be able to have in the World Cup this season, this year too. And again, a lot of publicity goes to Morocco for what they were able to do in World Cup 2022. One of the things that I know for sure is that Morocco will not go flying under the radar this time around. But would it be a surprise if the Senegal team flies a little bit under the radar and makes a deep run? That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. This is a very, very, very talented Senegal team. Let's see. Jaden the man, what's going on? Jaden says, how do you feel about Tim Ream as captain? That's a disaster waiting to happen. Hopefully there'll be co-captains. No, there's no co-captains, man. Tim Ream is the guy. And the first thing that came to my mind, by the way, when Tim Ream was named captain was, it essentially means that he's going to be starting for this team. I can't remember a time where somebody was named captain and, was coming off the bench. And so from that standpoint, unless there is a scenario where it is so bloody obvious where it's going to be a liability, Tim Ream is probably going to be grabbing a lot of the starting minutes right there at that left center back position. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the U.S. men's national team. And I got two different formations to throw at you this one. Of course, we're going to start with the 4-2-3-1, which is the base formation that Mauricio Pochettino prefers to work out of. And in my 4-2-3-1, obviously I have Matt Freese starting in goal, and I don't think that really is up for debate. I know there's a lot of people that would like to see Matt Turner in goal, just considering the fact that he was the starter the last go round. And when it comes to the bright lights and the expectations of what a World Cup is supposed to be, there is a feeling that maybe the comfortability is a little bit better with a guy like Matt Turner. But from everything that I have seen in the patterns in which Mauricio Pochettino works, it almost feels like this is going to be Matt Freese's job to lose. Okay, fine. We can move on from that one. I have Alex Freeman starting at right back in this base because as this team attacks forward, it's almost going to be looking as a back three as numbers move forward. And Alex Freeman is, primarily going to get a bulk of the minutes. Me personally, I think he's probably going to be one of the, if you're asking me who I'm expecting to be a top performer for this U.S. team or somebody that's going to be coming a little bit under the radar, maybe somebody we're not expecting, I think it's going to be Alex Freeman. And from that standpoint, I actually think the trust is there with a guy like Mauricio Pochettino in a guy like Alex Freeman. I think he's shown enough up to this point to where if you're asking him to either push forward, I think there's going to be enough confidence in his ability to push forward. But also, if you're asking him to stay back as others move forward from a defensive standpoint, I think there is a comfortability in Alex Freeman to be able to maintain and not freeze when it comes to the counterattacks or be able to give something over the top. Me personally, I think that this is probably going to be a tournament where Alex Freeman is going to play a bulk of some of these minutes, especially if this is going to be the formation that Mauricio Pochettino wants to attack out of, because moving forward, it's not going to necessarily look as an attacking four. I would assume that McKinney's going to push a little higher, as Tyler Adams is going to be the withdrawn forward. And so essentially what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up attacking with 5 or 6 as Anthony Robinson will push out up the left-hand side, holding that left side touchline as Christian Pulisic kind of drifts a little forward as he's going to be attacking defenders. And so from that standpoint, Alex Freeman is going to be, essentially staying back and playing, essentially holding that back line, which most likely is going to look like a back three moving forward. I have Chris Richards playing, and I don't think that is all that surprising as well, too. I know that he did not feature for Crystal Palace as they won the Conference League, and there is now coming out, there is news now that he is not going to be making the trip for this match against Senegal. But when it comes to the World Cup, I would probably assume that Chris Richards is going to be there for this match tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Miles Robinson play in this one tomorrow. It's probably not the name that you guys don't want to hear. Is this a situation where maybe Alex Freeman slides over and Serginho Dest plays potentially? But that being said, I think really when it comes to this, you're going to see Freeman stay on that right hand side, and you're going to see Miles Robinson kind of slip into this one, or even a guy like Mark McKenzie moving into this one for Chris Richards, who is going to be playing on the opposite side of Tim Ream. And of course, we were just talking a little bit about it just a second ago. Tim Ream will be wearing the captain's armband, and regardless of whether you guys like this or not, there are a few players that Mauricio Pochettino has become infatuated with within this player pool. Tim Ream happens to be one of those guys. And again, I don't know what it is. I think it is the fact that he is the veteran of this group. And whether or not you guys agree with this statement that I'm about to make, that really still, with the ball at his feet, he's probably one of the best center backs in the pool from building out of the back. And, not necessarily giving away a lot of, mistake passes. Yes, he can still do that. Now, again, the way that I feel about Tim Ream, the regression with Tim Ream is absolutely real. I don't necessarily see it, but that being said, there's something about Tim Ream's game that Mauricio Pochettino feels like it's safe. And so that's why he's going to be there. Jedi Robinson, obviously, it kind of goes without saying. The double pivot with inside the U.S. midfield, obviously Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie. And, from that standpoint of what it's going to look like as these numbers go forward, it's almost going to look like they're going to be playing with two high tens, even in this attacking formation. And Weston McKennie probably will tuck up underneath alongside a guy like Malik Tillman as these numbers push forward. But in this scenario, you're going to have Tim Weah and Christian Pulisic attacking alongside Flo Balogun as these numbers move higher up the pitch. And this is a formation that, Mauricio Pochettino has deployed with, obviously, Southampton, Tottenham, PSG, Chelsea, whatever club that he's, been at. This is usually the base deployment in which he likes to operate out of. And when it comes to the strength of the U.S. men's national team, this is something that, it's going to look the same. Now, whether or not this team is going to be able to hang with a team like Senegal, that's something that we're going to find out tomorrow. I don't necessarily like this matchup because one of the things that Senegal is very good at doing is disrupting the center of the park, getting turnovers in areas that are not conducive to the United States, and being able to push forward, get numbers forward, and utilizing their speed. And one of the things that they do incredibly well is in that counterattack off the initial turnover, because they have dudes that have the ability to burn our defenders, and it's going to end up looking like a shit show, right? Like we thought Belgium was bad, and the fact that they were just pushing down that left-hand side time and time again. Well, the thing about it is, it's like they have that Jeremy Doku type player on both sides. And so from that standpoint, the U.S. is not going to be able to overload on one side to try to protect and potentially bring an extra man over to cover that side. They have so many different weapons in which to play balls in, or whether they're going to just play directly through the center of the park. Like Senegal is that good of a team where they can burn you on multiple fronts. And so from this match specifically, it's going to be interesting to see exactly if Mauricio Pochettino is looking at 2 6s, or if this is going to be something where, Tyler Adams is going to be that disruptor piece where he's going to be a little bit withdrawn, not necessarily moving past that halfway line to protect against that. That turnover, so from that standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this thing is going to look when we kick off tomorrow. The other lineup that I have here is obviously the 3-4-2-1, which is something we saw last fall, into which the United States looked actually their best in under Mauricio Pochettino. And in this situation, again, I have, this is it's pretty much self-explanatory, right? I have Alex Freeman, Chris Richards and Tim Ream in that back three, and then of course a midfield four that does actually have Serginho Dest in it, because in this situation you're going to need somebody to carry that with on the right hand side, just like Robinson will able to do on the left hand side. But outside of that, it's going to look the exact same way moving forward in this situation as well too. The only thing that this does is it gives you that extra defender coming back, which would be, obviously Serginho Dest off that right hand side. And so from that standpoint, this is why I think we're going to see this tomorrow, is because of that. The idea of that extra defender to be able to drop back deep, so you're not going to be giving up that defensive edge on the backside. So we'll see exactly how it looks. But playing in this type of formation, you're almost going to be in that situation where you feel like you're going to be counterattacking a lot. And the way that I look at it is, maybe against Germany, it's going to look a little bit different, but when you're going up against a team like Senegal that can score, that can burn you in many different ways, it almost feels like that's going to be the way forward for the United States in this one. If they're going to be in a position where they are going to get a result, it's going to have to come from a potential point of a counterattack, which kind of runs counter to what I was saying yesterday, where the success of this team is going to be based on how many goals this team is going to be able to score in the World Cup. There are definitely going to be opponents in the World Cup where the United States are going to be able to hold possession and just get numbers forward, but against a team that is clearly better than them, and Senegal is clearly better than the United States, this feels like it's going to be one of those type of matches where we're going to see exactly what this defense is going to be made out of, and we're going to find out very early. Because if we're in that position where they're just going to take a bulk of the possession for like the first 25 minutes, we're going to find out. We're going to find out exactly what this team's positioning skills are, but also whether or not they're going to have to shade that extra defender back to make sure that Tim Ream doesn't get burnt. We're going to find out if Alex Freeman actually is really that type of piece where we can actually count on off that right side as well too, because the idea of having a guy like Ndai playing off the left, or even a Sadio Mane coming down the right hand side, man, that to me, I don't know, man, that's not necessarily the type of matchup that's really conducive for the U.S. to potentially get a result. But that being said, I'm not necessarily worried about it, because again, these are friendlies. But one of the things that you want to see is this U.S. team playing toe to toe against a team like Senegal. So we'll find out. But what I will say is that for the U.S., the best approach is playing to this team's strength. And I would probably assume it's going to look a little bit more like this, because from this setup, it's going to allow the U.S. to be in a position to control possession just a little bit more, because you have that versatile link up in Weston McKennie that is one of those type of guys who are going to be cool on the ball, not going to rush passes, not going to make mistakes, and you're going to be able to either centrally link, or you're going to be able to play balls out wide, whether that's Alex Freeman coming up the right-hand side or even forward with a through ball to a guy like Timmy Weah, right? That link-up play is going to be absolutely pivotal for this team to A, hold possession, or B, getting into an offensive shape where they're going to be able just to hold the ball in, and whether that's pinging balls in from the outside or playing it a little bit more centrally. This is going to be the formation that's going to get them there, and I think this is going to be a match where the U.S. are going to have to be a little bit daring. They're going to actually have to show a little bit more heart getting up the pitch in a more consistent manner. One of the things they cannot do is just resign themselves to a match where for an hour, they're just allowing their opponent just to control the possession, or even dictating a match on their own terms, because that is the surefire sign of this team getting their asses kicked tomorrow. And it's something that I don't think that we actually have the luxury to do. Me personally, I just don't think that that's going to be conducive, because one of the things that I do know about Senegal is they're excellently coached and they're organized, and they don't make mistakes. They really don't make mistakes. The way that I look at Senegal, they're like the third best team, maybe even the second best team in Africa at the moment. They're one of the teams that fly under the radar, and I don't understand why, because they're that good. Do they have the type of talent that would be considered world class? No, but what they do have is they have enough guys that apply their trade in the best league in the world, and those guys happen to put up pretty solid numbers. So, from that standpoint, not only are the talent good, but this team actually plays incredibly well together. That's something that, from the U.S. perspective, we don't know. We don't know because we don't see this team play a lot together. We don't even see the starting 11 play enough minutes together to get a good idea of whether or not there's good partnerships or whether there's good chemistry. So to me, that leads to the next conversation, guys. And that is what should happen tomorrow as far as minutes go, because one of my good friends, Adam, who is on X at I think he's Stan USMNT. I think he was saying something about how this should be a type of match where the starters get 50, 60 minutes, and then there should be heavy rotation. And I'm like, whoa. If this was last fall, yeah, okay, fine. But we have to take a different approach to this one, because we have to be ready for a World Cup. And it's because that Pochettino has had heavy rotation, whether it comes to call-ins or whether it comes to just, rotation within games. We haven't really seen our quote unquote starting 11 play consistently enough together where partnerships can form. And let me tell you something about football is partnerships are everything, whether that is in the center back pairing, whether that's in a double pivot when it comes to your two midfielders, or whether it comes, whether it is between your striker and your 10, or even your striker and your wingers, depending on the movement and the way that those two players play off each other. That's one of the things that we just don't know about this U.S. team. And one of the things that I would actually like to see is these starters get 70 minutes, a good 70, 75 minutes. And then if you want to bring players in, then you can find out exactly who is going to be your first and your second off the bench. Like these two matches are our core of what we think that our best 14 players that are going to get the bulk of the minutes. Like those are the players that we probably should be prioritizing at this stage. And they should be carrying the bulk of the minutes in these two friendlies. One of the things, whether it's good play, bad play, indifferent, whatever the case may be, these players have to be able to form that chemistry in match 100%. We have to find out exactly whether or not these pieces actually fit now. And from that standpoint, we need to see them play. Like, I don't want to see a situation where 45 minutes is up and then all of a sudden, 6 different players come in. Me personally, I don't think that that's actually going to be a plus for this team. And I understand there's going to be a potential that you run the risk for injury. I get it. But at the same time, me personally, I feel like it's a risk worth taking, because one of the things that this team has to be before we get there is, without a doubt, this team has to be bulletproof in every which way. And that only happens with the core of the core of this team playing a bulk of the minutes, without a doubt. Let's see. Who would win a battle between? Oh, Jesus. Let's see. I know there was another question somewhere here. I'll come back to it later. But yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about this at this stage. Let's see. We have Dermatron. What's going on, my guy? Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you're getting primed for a big off season. Let's see. Tunko says, I agree, but I think the chemistry and testing is important. Well, yeah, right. But that being said, it's like we're not going to find out exactly which players work unless they get a bulk of the minutes at this stage. Now, granted, I mean, if you want to keep them on a minutes restriction, okay, that's understandable. They don't need to be playing a full 90. I don't think it's necessarily to that stage, but again, man, chemistry is not going to be, it's not going to be something that's going to be achieved if we're on this rotation of like, okay, cool, you're going to get the first half and then we're just going to rotate in. It doesn't, this team is not going to be able to figure out exactly who they are. And by the way, one of the biggest thing is the identity of this team is not going to be able to get hammered in if that is going to be the prevailing wisdom of what this coaching staff is trying to accomplish by doing that. So one of the things that I want to see from this match tomorrow against Senegal and then also in Germany before we even hit the World Cup is I would like to know what this team is built upon, what the identity of this team is built upon, and then also what is it that this team is trying to accomplish? The ultimate goal, is it just having a good showing, or is this going to be one of those type of situations where they're going to maximize this opportunity that's right in front of them? Because again, I always get back to the conversation or the question of, does this team really understand exactly what's in front of them? Are they ready for the responsibility of what's going to happen within a week and a half? And that's a home World Cup. Playing in 2022, I don't think it was really that big of a deal. In Qatar, most of these guys were playing in their first World Cup and they got a taste of what it was and what's expected in a World Cup. But now all of a sudden you have the pressure of playing on your home soil in front of your fans. And there's a big group of fans that it feels like they're actively rooting against them for whatever the reason is. And you have that added pressure to prove people wrong. On top of the fact that we haven't won a knockout round game since 2002. Add that into the equation. And by the way, that shit's insane too. We haven't won a knockout round since 2002. It's funny. It's funny because, this team has progressively gotten better over the years. From a financial standpoint, the Federation is in a much better position. The resources that are allocated to the men's side from where this Federation was to where it is now, the opportunities are better for U.S. players, whether that is abroad or domestically. And yet this national team has only won one knockout round, one knockout game in its modern history. It's simply simply unacceptable at this stage. And so from that standpoint, man, the pressure within this World Cup for this team to do something that it hasn't done is something that, I think a lot of fans are kind of curious about. Let's see. Cooling Colin. All right. Cooling says the salary cap hurts the growth in the U.S. I think that's certainly a part of it. That's certainly a part of the discussion. It certainly hinders Major League Soccer teams from being able to build teams in the right way. I think I think DP rules and TAM rules are even even a little bit more detrimental, because they're, when you slot players at certain price points, you're not able to construct a roster. That is one that provides balance. And so from that, from that standpoint, where you have an attack that costs this, and then your defense costs this, and you see exactly, the average scoreline in Major League Soccer, it's by design. It is designed for the American audience, right? Because, American audiences aren't going to stand for a 0-0 match or a 1-0 match or anything like that, right? So that's why these rules were put into place. That's why there's a salary cap. So we have crazy ass score lines. So yeah, it certainly doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help, especially when, most of those roster spots are going to foreign players, without a doubt. I can definitely get behind that as well too. But what I will say is that because of the opportunities now within Major League Soccer, more players are being scouted. More players are going into academies now. Whether or not some of these teams are giving pathways to American players, that conversation is definitely relevant. Some teams do it better. Philadelphia is a team that does a very good job of opening pathways. Same with FC Dallas. You're starting to see a little bit of it with New York, although the Red Bulls historically have been one of those type of teams. Same thing with Seattle. Has historically done a very good job with homegrown players. So there are teams in Major League Soccer that definitely do a better job than others. But then you have your LA Galaxies and your LAFCs and your Miamis that don't. And if you're a young American player in those teams, it's like, dude, you got to get yourself away. Like you're actually better off going through the USL. As we're starting to see over the last couple of years, USL now, not only have they given pathways to young players, but they're also selling players abroad as well too. Let's see. You have to find a way to keep the best American players in Major League Soccer. That right there is a mission of Major League Soccer. And if that means that young American players are getting DP contracts, then there is going to be a incentive on doing that. I know that is something that Major League Soccer wants to do, is to keep young American players here a little bit longer. It's one of the reasons why Diego Luna is still here. Same thing with Max Arfston. But then again, if the price is right, there are going to be players that are going to move abroad, as we saw with Alex Freeman. Let's see. PSG won. That's good. That's good. I'm happy. I'm happy that Arsenal lost today. I'm very happy with that. But I think my expectation for tomorrow against a team that is clearly better than us is to go right at them, right? That is going to be something that we saw this in World Cup 2022, where we controlled very good large portions of the match against Wales, and in moments where we probably should have been able to beat Wales. Same thing against England as well too. So this team has shown with this core that it can go toe-to-toe with some of the better teams, even teams that, on paper are going to be night and day better. So this, I don't necessarily doubt that this team has the ability. It's going to be the, how should I say this? It's going to be whether or not this team is going to be set up in a manner that's going to play into the strengths, and B, whether or not they're going to be able to capitalize on early mistakes. Because I do see a few scenarios where there are going to be opportunities to play balls in, and there's going to be good 1v1 situations. It's going to be whether or not this team is going to be able to take advantage of them and take advantage of early. Because again, as good as Senegal is, it's not like they can't be scored upon. And what is very, very important tomorrow is not only scoring early, but getting that crowd involved early, getting them behind you as well too. One of the things that this team had, like when we've seen this team successful, it's when they do that as well too. It's the ability to create momentum early, and being able to be in a position where they can potentially kill off an opponent in that first half. That was the design. Excuse me. That was the design against Belgium. That was what Pochettino was trying to do against Belgium. And that was how we were set up. And unfortunately, in that Belgium match, we had opportunities to do it, and we weren't able to take advantage of them. And if we're being honest, I actually think that Belgium defense is a little bit better than what Senegal is going to be. Senegal is going to be showing tomorrow. But again, Senegal is also a team where if they need to, they can drop 10 behind the ball, and they can dare you to break them down. And so again, it gets back to, do we have the ability to do it? On paper, it would suggest that we do, without a doubt. On paper, we have the talent, and we have the ability to do it. It's just all about execution and being able and to be able to do it within that first 25 minutes and set that marker down and set that tone. I know it's easier said than done, but it's not exactly an impossible situation for this team. It all depends on what Mauricio Pochettino is, what is going to be his motivation in that setup tomorrow. Because again, if it is a back five, my thought process behind it is you're doing it for that extra defender. You're like, for me at least, it signals that you're doing it because that maybe in that back four, and especially when we saw it against Belgium and Portugal, dude, it was shaky. It was shaky. And so bringing on that starting the game with the extra defender is essentially signaling that you need that extra protection in the back. And so from that standpoint, it just lets me know that we're starting the game a little bit more pragmatic and not necessarily going to be on the front foot, which means that in order for us to get forward, it's going to be off of mistakes, and we're gonna be a counterattacking team. And I don't think that's the right prescription in order to beat Senegal, because Senegal is going to be they have too many weapons, and you're not going to be able to man mark them and play this 0-0 type of game, right? Because Senegal is going to bring pressure forward, and we're going to crack. And let's be perfectly honest, this team is not good from coming back, right? In the Pochettino era, I'm trying to remember a time where we came back and beat somebody down a goal. And if you guys can like clue me on, let me know too, because right off the top of the head, I can't remember a time where we came back to win something. Generally speaking, we've looked our best when we've taken early leads because we're able to build on them. We're not a come from behind type of team. Let's see. Do I think Pochettino can rally this U.S. team with rumors not staying long term? Yeah, absolutely. By the way, that's much to do about nothing. That is people looking for an excuse to be angry or looking for a problem when there's not one, because Pochettino was never going to be here long term. This was never a long-term project. He was not going to stay beyond the 18 months. This was, of the available jobs that were open at the time, this was probably like the most attractive because it was a home World Cup. And the U.S. had enough talent where, his coaching staff can come in and get this team organized and getting him in a position where maybe they can make a deep run at home. but it was never going to be something where he was going to sign on for another 4 years. And so from that standpoint, I don't have a problem with him taking meetings. And by the way, it's not a distraction for the players. They understand it's a business. Him and his coaching staff are looking for their next gig because, again, this was never going to be a long-term appointment. And as long as he's being transparent with the federation, there's no problem. And I think that's something that I think JT Batson recently said publicly as well too, that he has been 100% transparent from the day that he started, that his goal is to get back into the club game, and it is what it is. And yeah, Matt, I would probably agree. I don't think the players are watching the media either. And if if the players are, it's much ado about nothing. And by the way, it's not like Pochettino he himself isn't distracted either. He's 100%, with this team right now, getting ready for a World Cup. Yeah. So I don't see this as anything that is a distraction for this team. What's going on, Adam? Let's see, 464 AD. What's going on, bud? Good to have you along. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because, again, I think these two friendlies are exactly what this team needs prior to starting the World Cup, because they need to have these tests. They need to get some answers before they get into this World Cup. They have to find out exactly what these partnerships are, how this team is going to be able to perform together, because again, this team just really hasn't had a lot of minutes. This starting 11, this core, when you look at the minutes logged together, not a lot of, really the last time we really saw a bulk of these players were last year during the Nations League. Obviously this team wasn't, a lot of these guys weren't together over the summer for the Gold Cup. And then, because of injury, some of these guys weren't available in September, October, November last year. And so this is really going to be the first opportunity for this full senior national team to be together and logging minutes. And there's a lot of questions have to be answered. And that's why I like this, because you're getting two very good, high quality opponents before you get that Paraguay match. And so if this team can pass a few tests, we're going to know exactly what this group stage is going to play out to, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I still think that this team is going to win the group. Do I think that this team is the best team in the group? No. I still think Turkey probably might be the best team in the group, but because of the schedule in which the U.S. starts it, I think they're probably going to have the advantage to win this group. Would it surprise me if the U.S. wins the group based on goal differential? No. But again, what I like about it is the fact that both Paraguay and Australia are going to be tough outs. And I don't see a situation where either U.S. or Turkey are going to be able to walk through this group. I personally believe that for both of these teams, they're going to be very well tested by the time that they play each other in Los Angeles to determine who's going to win this group. I still think that it favors the U.S., and I also think the road for a deep run is still maybe a little bit more favorable for the U.S. But again, Turkey's not going to be a team where we're going to have to overlook. Me personally, I think this is a team that's gotten better since the last time that they were in tournament play, which was the Euros a couple years ago. And their young players have gotten a lot better. Yildiz and Arda Güler. Those two players are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Let's see. We beat Paraguay and Australia. Turkey is a different matter. Yeah, we faced Turkey, I believe, prior to the Gold Cup with a makeshift team, and we kind of got our doors blown off of. We kind of got beat up in that one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We did beat Paraguay and Australia. But again, both Paraguay and Australia played us pretty tough, though. Like I don't take those two teams for granted either. And I don't think anybody should be sleeping on either of those teams. I think a lot of people forget what Australia did in the last World Cup, getting out of their group and taking Argentina to the brink there. They gave a good account of themselves in the last World Cup. It's not a team that I sleep on. So I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow's live stream will be here on Stateside Footy. And I'm kind of curious to see exactly what that back four is going to look like. I don't think, Alex Freeman is going to be in that. If they play in a back four, I don't think he's going to be in that center back pairing. I think he's probably going to be on that right-hand side. I would probably assume that it's going to be Mark McKenzie or Miles Robinson playing in that right center back pairing with Tim Ream. And I also think it's because of the fact that Chris Richards is not going to be playing tomorrow that we're probably going to see a back five. That would be my guess. That would be my guess. And it makes a lot of sense too. They're going to need that extra coverage. And especially if it's Miles Robinson, man. I don't know. That actually just might be a mistake. The fact that we actually have Tim Ream starting, and then you put a guy like Miles Robinson next to him. Let's see. No game is easy, but those two games are not as hard as Turkey. I don't know, man. I don't know. You can make the case either way, right? Because we played them and because we beat them, we have that leg up. But that being said, even in the losing effort, they also have you can also make the case that they have the same advantage as well too. Because of that, they have the exact same game film. You can make the exact same argument the other way. Let's see. Good on PSG letting the game go to penalties. Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy that Arsenal lost. I couldn't live in a world if they actually ended up with that double. I can't live in a soccer world where Arsenal wins a double. I just can't do it. Not to mention the fact that they were gifted the Premier League this year. I don't care what anybody says, man. Going through an entire season where you don't give up, you don't get a red card and you don't give up a penalty. Come on, man. Get out of here. It never happens. It's never happened. It will never happen again. Let's see. It's not that impossible to beat. So the interesting thing, though, is as I close out the show tonight, I have gone through a few different simulations with the U.S. men's national team when it comes to World Cup 2026. And in both occasions, I had the U.S. winning the group, which would give the U.S. the Ivory Coast in the round of 32, which is a good national team, but by all means, not the best African nation. And a team that we should be able to beat in the round of 32, which would line up in the round of 16 against Belgium. A team that we are very familiar with. And of course, obviously back in 2014 in the round of 16 where we lost. And of course, we just faced them not that long ago in March. And so both of these teams in recent and long-term history are familiar with each other. And, in order for this team to get to a quarterfinal, they're going to have to do something that we've never seen this team do, which is in that type of scenario, beat a top 15 team. And again, Belgium, a very good team, but are they one of the best teams in the world currently? No. Are they, they're not on the level of France and they're not on the level of England. Good team, but by all means, they're not, they're not going to be a team that's going to be picked to win the World Cup, but certainly a team that should beat us. Like if if we play, Belgium 10 times, would it be out of the realm of possibility that they beat us 8 times out of 10? Yeah, probably. But one of the things about the World Cup that's special is the fact that timing and luck does come into play. And we've seen this in World Cups past where, good teams get knocked out early or good teams get grouped and, luck ends up falling on our side. I don't necessarily think that happens with this World Cup, just considering of the extended teams. We have a lot of national teams that have no business being in a World Cup, and because of that, we don't have a group of death. And from that standpoint, I would just assume that the teams that are going to advance are going to be the teams that we expect. The names that we expect to be there will be there. And so from that standpoint, the U.S. are going to have to do something extra special in that round of 16 to advance to a quarterfinal. Me personally, I look at this team as, because this is the first time that we're taking a group of forwards, whether that's strikers, wingers, tens. This is the deepest, most talented group of forwards we're taking into a World Cup. And because we have a coach that is I guess you can classify him as a tactically attacking coach, I would assume that more oftentimes than not, we're going to play a little bit to our strengths. And because it's a home World Cup, the talent should suggest that we possibly could beat one of those teams to get to a quarterfinal. I look at this as that should be the minimum, is getting to a quarterfinal on a home World Cup. And in both of my mocks, again, call me a happy clapper, call me what you will, I have the U.S. at least beating one of those teams. And if it's Belgium, it's Belgium, but that's where I have the U.S. going out, because in both of my mocks, the U.S. gets Spain after advancing past Belgium, and that's where I have the U.S. going out, because I don't think the U.S. are equipped to beat a team like Spain. I mean, this isn't Confederations Cup 2009. We don't have the same cast of characters. The bulldog leadership that we had back in those days. But the talent of this team does suggest that we should be able to at least beat one of those teams. I really do. And when you look at, when you look at the talent that's assembled, if things break right in a match and we're able to take advantage, can I see it happening? Sure. Can I see this team beating a Spain or an England? Yeah, maybe not. Especially deep into a tournament? Yeah, probably not. Let's see. Only France and Argentina are equipped to beat Spain. Yeah, I would probably assume that. I would probably agree with you there too, Adam. I don't think we have those type of bulldogs in our squad that we had back in 2009, where we go into a Confederations Cup and beat a Spain, that's on like a 35 match unbeaten streak. We don't have that. But we do have a roster that in a one-off, if things break right, could we beat a team like Belgium? Yeah, I think we probably could. But, advancing to a semifinal going through, a Spain. Yeah, I can't see that. I can't see that. Like that would be overachieving as a nation. And I don't think we really I don't think we actually have the dogs on defense to be able to do that, because those are the type of fights where, we're going to be constantly under duress, and our ability to have possession is going to be far and few in between. Against a team like Belgium, where in that first half, where we actually had opportunities and we weren't able to take advantage of them, and we had a couple in the second half as well too. And so from that standpoint, a team like Belgium, yeah, if we get some breaks, yeah, we probably could. But that's kind of that's where I see this team. That if things go right, a quarterfinal is doable. But what I'm not going to do right now is say that that's where we're at right now, because there's a few tests that are coming tomorrow that we have to pass, and if we don't, all bets are off. And I think I can genuinely say that tomorrow is going to be an interesting opportunity, because it is going to test us in a few different areas, mainly in the midfield and also in the defense. And what I want to see is this team on set pieces. I want to see this team being able to clear out central areas and not being so easy to cut through. But I also want to see what that center back pairing looks like, against a team that, from a pace standpoint, yeah, they're going to have that advantage. And so tomorrow, that's the test that I need to see tomorrow. Let's see. I've come to expect that we're not for the UCL. I'm content with permanent. USA won't make it past the round of 16. Maybe. You might be right. Let's see. I've come to accept we are not meant for the UCL. I'm content with Prem titles. Yeah. Be happy that you were gifted. Be happy that you were gifted the Premier League. Because you were gifted. All right, guys. That is going to do it for me tonight. I will be back tomorrow afternoon with the live stream. The U.S. versus Senegal. Of course, that gets started, I believe, like at 3:30. So I will be here at about 10 minutes prior to kick, as we get into the starting lineups and just exactly what what's at stake tomorrow. So of course we're going to get into that, and of course the entire match tomorrow. And I got to be honest with you, man. This is the time where I get fired up, man. It's been this way for as long as I can remember, man. When it comes to the World Cup, man, I just instinctively believe that we're going to do some damage, and it's just the way that I feel. It just is what it is, man. I am a U.S. homer. It is. It's true. It's true. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I hope to see you guys here tomorrow for that watch along, and of course next week too against Germany. And of course we're going to be back midweek as we break down this match and get you ready for Germany. So until then, I hope to see you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. Good night, guys.
Rusted goalposts under fading skies.